Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. I am Caitlin and this is where I teach you stuff about sewing. But today, we're doing something a little different. Something that's kind of been in the works for several years probably. And that's where I stand on controversial sewing topics. Some people get really heated. I mean, I'm not on Facebook anymore, but there were people in groups that got like downright mad about stuff like this. So I just thought it'd be fun to share kind of where I stand on some of these topics. It's all just in the name of fun. Don't get too worked up about it. I definitely don't. And whatever you choose to do in your sewing practice is absolutely your choice. No judgment from me. But a lot of times when I watch videos like this, I learn something, maybe a new way to do things that I didn't know of before or something to try. So anyway, let's just get into it. So I have a list of 9 controversial sewing topics here. So I'm just gonna go down the list and we're gonna find out where I stand on each of these. Number 1 is pins versus clips. Wonder clips, binder clips, whatever kind of clips. When it comes down to it, I do use both pins and clips for different applications. Obviously, something in the middle of a garment, you cannot use a wonder clip for that, so I use pins. If I need it to be like super secure in an exact precise location, I'll use pins. But for the majority of the time, I use clips. And that's not even actually that accurate. The majority of the time, I don't use anything. Yeah, I kind of just use my finger. I'm kind of a lazy sewist. I actually have a video on that. But when I do want something to stay in its place, I often reach for the clips before the pins. Starting things off real diplomatic there by saying I do both or neither. But speaking of pins, let's jump into a juicy one. Do I sew over pins or do I pull the pins out? Personally, I can't say I would ever intentionally sew over a pin. Again, I mean, it'll be different. Some people do, some people were taught that it's okay. I've heard people tell me, yeah, the needle just pushes the pin out of the way and it's fine. I don't. I have to remove the pin. And when we're talking about sewing over pins, it's when they are perpendicular to the fabric, not parallel. That would not really work. I've done that by accident before and the presser foot kind of just pushes the pin out of the way. So yeah, that doesn't work. Talking about when it's perpendicular, do you sew over them or not? I'd love if you guys leave me comments below on your answers to these questions. I just think it's fun. Okay, making muslins. I think you probably know the answer to this, but yes, I am a big proponent of making a practice garment, a muslin, a toile, a mock-up, whatever you want to call it, using some sort of practice fabric to make the garment before you use your good fabric. And for me personally, it's just all about fit. And that's the reason I sew. The main reason I sew is to get a good fit. So altering patterns to get a proper fit is very, very important to me. I don't want to be just using a pattern right out of the envelope on really good, oftentimes expensive fabric if I'm not confident that it's going to fit me perfectly and that I'm really going to love that piece. So I make practice ones. Definitely more of a quality over quantity person, so it's worth the time for me. That being said, I do not like wasting fabric on muslins, so I will use like bed sheets or curtains, any sort of thrifted materials like that. And then even after I make the muslin, I will often reuse it if I can to make other muslins, maybe for my kids or a smaller type of garment, or piece them together or something like that. Okay, Big Four versus indie pattern designers. If I had to choose one to only use for the rest of my life, it would be indie designers, hands down. And I realize that the Big Four, which I guess is now the Big Five, it is real people behind those designs, making the patterns and everything like that. It is still real people, but I just like something about supporting the little guy and these individual people who are making a go at their own pattern companies, and they can kind of just do what they want and they're not answering to a board or something like that that says, let's just tweak this design or that design. So I really like that part of it. I also like that I can just get it on the internet. I can download it and use it that same day. Yes, I realize that the Big Five are coming out like that too, but yeah, it's just nice and simple. Another huge thing I love about independent designers is that they use the community, the sewing community, as testers. So you can see that on different body types. Maybe it's somebody you even know or have a similar body type to and can talk to them and ask them questions. And a lot of times the designers themselves are really approachable and open to conversation about anything you have. Paper versus projector or digital patterns. You guys, do I like having a projector? Yes, but I more love not having paper. So I do still have some paper patterns. I have a drawer that has several paper vintage paper patterns in it. When I got my projector up and going, I was able to throw away giant stacks of AO printed patterns, and I kid you not, it was like a physical weight being lifted off my chest to get rid of that paper. It was taking up an entire file drawer in my studio, and it was just like, it was so much, and it's so much easier to just click onto my computer and find the pattern. I would say pattern alterations, I do prefer paper for, you know, for anything more significant. And then there, of course, there are things about projecting that aren't great, like, you know, not being able to really do it much in the daylight. But for the most part, again, if I had to choose, I would definitely be picking projector. Pre-washing fabric, or do I just sew it up and hope for the best? I definitely pre-wash. I think I actually have a video on this too. Again, I am all about quality, and I'm not just going to go through all the effort of making something for it to just shrink in the dryer or in the sun afterwards. It's getting dealt with first, and then I make up my garment, and there should be no problems after that. I also really like that it just takes out the chemicals and any of the preservatives or whatever they use on the fabrics, dirt even just from being in the warehouses and in trucks and things like that. It's just nice to have nice clean fabric. What about choosing a size for sewing? Do I just look at the measurements on the pattern and then sew up that size? This is a loaded question, and I do have a video on this, but for the most part I go off of the sizes, but not really the body measurement sizes. I more so look at the finished garment sizes, and I also measure directly on the pattern piece, or, you know, on the digital form if that's the case, to see where I'm going to fit. I have had very little luck in choosing sizes directly as the body measurements say. Oftentimes they're just way too big. The garment turns out way too big on me, and I've used different measuring tapes, different, you know, make sure I'm going straight across my body. I don't know, I just can't seem to get it to work right. So I am pretty careful with choosing a size, and that's also why I just do mock-ups to make it easier on my life. I definitely don't just choose a medium because I'm a medium in the store. That would be disastrous all around. And the next one is pressing. Do I press as I'm sewing, or do I never press at all, or do I press all at the end? I like to press as I go, every seam, or I'll do a few seams and then press. I just love the finish of it. I think it makes a more professional look in the end. And also it kind of adds to ease of sewing in future steps, especially for certain applications. I definitely think it's more important in woven fabrics. Knits, I mean, it does look a lot nicer when you press, I do believe that, but I don't think it's as important. So if I am in a hurry, sometimes I will skip that or just do it all at the end. Speaking of fabrics, knits versus wovens. Final controversial topic of this video. Where do I stand? I have a whole video on this too. It's wovens. Guys, wovens are so much easier to work with. Sure, knits might be more comfortable and cozy, but I feel like wovens are just more versatile. You can make almost any garment out of a woven fabric, and they're going to just look, I mean, the pressing lines are crisp, everything just looks so nice. You can finish off those seams in so many different ways. You can also do different techniques like quilting, or, you know, all kinds of different things. Wovens are my favorite to work with, and I just think that the patterns have a lot more detail or more interest in woven patterns across the board. You know, I'm making a vast generalization, but I think, yeah, I just think wovens are simpler to deal with. And I mean, you only need a straight stitch machine also. You wouldn't even need a serger or something like that if you only sewed with wovens. But I also love knit fabrics. I just love them a little bit less than wovens. Thanks so much for sticking around to this video. I hope it was a little bit fun for you to kind of see where I'm at, and I'm really interested to hear where you're at, so leave me a comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye!